Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today's project is pouring these footings for our porches. So you're going to get to watch two complete novices pouring concrete today. This is the second time I've ever poured any kind of concrete and the first time for my wife. So it should be kind of entertaining watching us figure out how to struggle through this.
I know for a fact I ain't ready. Yeah, we'll try it, see what it does.
We're going to check this concrete and see how dry it is. And it's probably about a 5.5 slump when this truck got here and we started putting this out. And it's a little stiff, but what I didn't want to happen is too much concrete start coming out and we start overflowing this before the two of us could control it. And we're going to find out here a little while that it's a little dry.
Oh, like I say, let's start with it and see how it goes. We may end up adding a little water. It depends on how she's doing dragging. Okay.
As we go along here, I'm trying to put out just enough concrete that we're up to grade based on the grade pins that we put in the last video. We're trying to prevent having to drag too much concrete to fill in low spots, and you know, if we get too much in one spot, we got to move it to get it down to grade.
Hold up, give me a little bit. You like the hose better?
Now what you'll see me doing as we go along here is taking the screed, locating the grade pins so I can get our elevation set, and then spreading that concrete out and smoothing it down with the screed to get it to elevation. It's kind of like what I was mentioning in the video where they were pouring the second floor and they were using the grade pins to make a wet pad. The nice thing about using the grade pins the way we did on this is I can set the screed on there and it'll tell me if the concrete's high or low without going ahead and trying to level everything out. So at times you'll see us with that screed placed on top of the pins and moving concrete either over to where the screed's sitting or taking it out because the concrete was above grade where that screed's sitting.
That's high. Okay. Nope, we need more.
This is the point where things started going a little sideways on this concrete pour. Before we moved the cameras, when the truck was around the corner of the house here, we heard a lot of air suddenly come rushing out of the back of the truck and the brakes started locking up. And that's what the second driver's doing now, is trying to figure out why the brakes aren't working. And we ended up stopping the pour to try to figure it out. I ended up helping them figure out that it was either the spring brake diaphragm or the service diaphragm that had blown out in this thing. And it ended up blowing the dust cover off of the back of it, and air was leaking out. And the way these brakes work, when the system loses air, the brakes automatically come on. It's a safety feature so that, you know, if you're suddenly you don't have air on your truck, it's not going to just keep rolling, it'll go ahead and stop. And I gave them a set of vice grips that they put on the air line indicated by this arrow on that picture, and shut the system airflow off to that brake pot so that it would then go ahead and released the brakes by holding pressure, and they could move the truck and we could finish this pour. The section we're working on right here is one of the two places we've got a step in this footing. It steps up about 12 inches right here to save us on some of the labor of putting block in or the expense of putting more concrete in where we didn't need it. This is where we discovered that the concrete was starting to get a little stiff. The truck had been on site for about an hour and 15 minutes at this point, and we'd spent about 20 minutes with the concrete just sitting in the truck trying to get the brakes fixed. We didn't go ahead and add water to it because we didn't know how much was in the truck. Thought we should be getting close to empty, and it was getting really hard to work right at this point. At this point, we were about 8 yards into this pour, so I asked the driver that's driving the second truck you see backing in on the right here to add water to his load. And we took the slump on this load up to about 6.5, which made it a lot easier to work since we were getting pretty worn out after the two previous 12-hour days running the shovels and benders and stuff, getting this thing ready to pour. That sound you're hearing in the background is my wife grabbing the side-by-side to take this truck up the top of the hill and dump the remainder of this load on a spot for trying to stop some erosion. We ended up ordering 11 yards for this pour. I estimated we needed 10 and a half and got 11 just to be safe. And by the time they got up there and dumped this out, we had about 2 wheelbarrows full of concrete left over. So we were right on the money with how much we needed. What I'm doing here is taking a mag float and smoothing all of this out. Even though this is the early part of the pour, since it's on the north side of the house, out of the sun, it was much slower setting up. So it allowed me to come back and smooth everything off to make it easier to set the block on.
Hey, this thing seems low on the right-hand side.
The reason you see me slapping this is to loosen up the surface and push the aggregate down that's sticking up, and it brings a little moisture to the top and allows me to smooth all of this out better. Now I'm looking for the pin on this end to double check the grade on it, and you're going to see me dig a great big hole trying to find it.
Uh-oh.
Hell, I couldn't even find the pin.
Looks like you need to go toward the house a little bit more. Did we lose it? A shovel. See where the point's at? Yeah. Get the level, because it can't be that low, honey.
No.
All right, let me get the level.
There it is. I found it. My paint was a little off.
Is it too low?
No.
No? Okay.
It's up here. My paint was off. That's good.
Now that may be a little high on the left.
It's all right. Just the middle is what I'm. The middle 8 inches is. Because the block's going to be from here to here. You know, so.
Well, there is a moon, but we're not finishing by the light of the moon.
Yes, thank God, unlike yesterday. All right. It's time for an adult recreational beverage. And some naproxen. I got it. Oh, God.
You're hired.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. This would have been one ungodly, miserable experience if you hadn't been here.
Oh, honey. I don't know that you'd gotten done. Or...
No, I'd have probably just done half of it and cut it off.
So there's the worker bee.
Bzz, bzz.
And there's the moon back there. And the puppy. Hello, puppy.
All right, I think that will work. Put the block on.
Yay! We did it!
This overhead view makes it look a lot worse than it is. The footings actually came out pretty straight, but because of the way the ground tore out around the edges, there's concrete that flowed out and it makes everything look crooked and wonky. But the main part of the footings themselves, I think, are pretty solid and pretty straight and square. All right, folks, I think that's going to wrap this video up for today. Thank you for watching, and y'all have a good day.